And here's the key, that one is, and again, I call this, I put a splinter in people's minds, right? The matrix thing, where they just can't stop thinking about it. So one is that I found that every mission statement comes from our life experiences. Okay. So there you go. There's the splinter. But I say, if in light of the fact of when you look at the world, there are millions of problems, right? But ask yourself the question, what is it about the human experience that you just can't stand?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And people say like poverty or sex trafficking or drugs or something, which, but go deeper, keep going deeper until you arrive at the reason why is like, this is how it flushes out, but it eradicates the human soul, right? That you get down to that level, because like mine is, I can't stand mediocrity. I mean, because of the people who just said it's mediocrity. It's not just a criticism of them. It's they can't become incredible and change the world. So whatever it is. So I say, that's where you begin. It's like, what is it about the human experience that you can't stand, and just keep digging until you come up with a mission statement is, you know what? My mission is to emanate connection, to be able to see every person I come across. So when they walk away from my presence, they feel seen.
Nice.
It's like at that level, right? Now, your mission statement may or may not turn into some career, but it doesn't matter. Like these doctors, they're not gonna leave $300K. They got to pay off their school loans. It's not about a career. I mean, it may turn into that, but it's about like, this is why I was born. Now, it could either be like solving a problem, or like I said, enhancing the human experience. Like I illustrate Howard Schultz in Starbucks. He looked and said, you know what, man, there is an experience waiting for people out there that, again, because it's coffee, it touches the human soul. I wrote this book when I was on a cruise. Well, a cruise is not solving a human problem, right? Like a hospital, it is entirely about enhancing the human experience. So that's where our mission statement comes from. It's like, I want to, I want to help the world like have an experience, because the world is so sad and just all this other stuff. But I want to help them have an experience, to give them an escape. All right. Or I want to solve a human problem. Right. So you just begin there and just keep digging. And it takes time. It takes some soul searching.
Yeah.
But that's what it is, man. It's that Iron Man core, that purpose. Because, like in the movie, the shrapnel, like why, that's why he got the energy source to begin with, because a bomb exploded and shrapnel stuck in his chest that was high tech. It was burning its way to his heart. So the doctor in the cave, it's a movie, in the cave, put this energy source in. So without the energy source, that shrapnel, John, is life's annoyances. It's traffic. It's the weather. It's stoplights. It's, the job, like all that life's annoyances is that shrapnel that will kill our hearts if we don't have purpose.
Wow. And so I can hear a lot of the things you're saying are about self-mastery, looking within, and also having some kind of process or way to doing that, which I'm sure your book explains, and that how when you work with people one-on-one, you help people with that. And I also found it interesting, you were saying before with that outside validation that we're seeking rather than looking within. So it's really interesting that it's all about what's within rather than without, and maybe even controlling what you can control rather than reacting to your particular world, and having that awareness, maybe you'd say the emotional intelligence to operate like that. And then you often hear emotional intelligence this, emotional intelligence that, but I'm really interested, just for our listeners who might have heard the expression before, but just struggling with the definition of it. If someone came to you and said, Dr. Greg, how do you define emotional intelligence? What would you say?
So there's different models out there, but just real simply, it's just think of self and others. Okay. So you want to be self-aware. So self-aware on the surface is, okay, what's being aware of what my opinion is, being aware of what my emotions are. And, because one thing is like, I'm driving to work, like, man, I'm in a bad mood right now. Right. So being aware of that, but then you can go deeper on self-awareness, like on the mission statement stuff. So that could be a deep dive. So there's self-awareness, and then self-management, like controlling of emotions, like either controlling of emotions is not just that you have a whole bunch. So extroverts need to pull back because they externalize their emotional energy. Introverts need to pull out. Like introverts, like some people like avoid conflict. Well, they need to emotional intelligence and the key is that like with personality, you have to imitate at times the opposite temperament, right? So I'm an extrovert, but I need to imitate like my wife because she's the sweetest thing on the face of earth because she's just always sweet. But when I'm there, I'm extra and I'm angry, but I need to step back and imitate like an introvert right now because I'll achieve my goal. Like I need to address this, but I need to do it in such a way it doesn't cause damage, right? So that's self-awareness, self-management. But then there's like the influence, there's others awareness and others management. Well, others awareness sounds fine, but others management, it's like, right? So they call it relationship management or social intelligence, right? Relabel it because it sounds better. But I've actually relabeled others awareness into something else. So those are the 4 categories, but the chronological flow that we experience every day is the first thing is self-awareness, right? What am I thinking and feeling because we're trying to achieve emotional goals constantly, right? But I think my opinion, John, is the true mastery of EI is in the second one, which is others awareness, which I've turned into situational awareness. Kind of like this where situational leadership comes in. The situation that we all walk into, the situation is the king. It's the brick wall. It's not moving. Right. So if what my mental model says, hey, Greg, say this, respond this way. I kind of like if it matches the situation, I'm golden. Right. That's where the whole UBU comes in. But if there's a gap at all, that if I'm going to be Greg, I'm going to cause damage. And again, I'm going to run into the brick wall and somebody's going to lose and it's not the brick wall. So situational awareness means that I read the situation. Does it need a personality change like extrovert, introvert, so on? And I kind of imitate and I still what my goal is, this doesn't change, but how I go about doing it, because personality in AI is all about our how we come across, how we engage, right? So that's the second one. The third one is self-management, which means obviously I say if there's a gap at all, but the greater the gap, the more emotional we are. So the more self-management we need, because I'm like so much energy. I need to close that gap, right? And imitate. The fourth component is actually completely separate, which is relationship management. And in my book, I just give like a plethora of communication skills. Because the most powerful course I took in my master's of counseling, they called it consulting or they call it interviewing skills, but they're just communicate like empathy, genuineness, pause, regard, open-ended probe, close-ended probe, like reflection statements to bring people more into their emotions. There's a technique that I use at the hospital where I can pull people out of their emotion. So those are just like communication techniques to achieve both goals, right? That's the fourth category. The self-awareness, situational awareness, and self-management process is cyclical. And whether or not we know it, we've been doing it since birth, right? So a 2-year-old who throws a temper tantrum, our parents say, no, sir. You're like, I'm like really upset right now at my mom because she didn't give me a sucker, but it's not working. So I need to find a different approach because my mom is the situation and I'm really upset. So I need to manage myself. And tomorrow I say, Mom, can I have a sucker? No, you may not. But we hold it in, right? We've been that's the process we've been going through since birth. Self-awareness, situational awareness, and self-management. We just like Daniel Goleman put it into a theory that's why it resonates so much, right? So that's like the EI concept in a nutshell.
Right. So we've been learning and doing that ever since we were born, as you said. And what I can hear a lot in your answers is it's about thinking about and looking at that before you're reacting or before you get into that situation, or really doing the thinking before doing the doing and the action. Or I'm this, and having that awareness. I'm this kind of person. I'm going to be in this environment. How's it going to work best for me and others? How should I be? That kind of thing. Am I kind of
that's really talking about like win-win situations, right? Yeah. Like Stephen Covey, make it a win-win. So it's not just about you. Again, it's what's best for the situation. I want you to win and me to win. That's where they instead of win lose or whatever, or instead of lose win, where they lose or they win you lose, right? That's where it comes from. It's And that's what, again, the most emotionally intelligent, and that's living our values.
Mm.
Living our values is that I'm going to choose to respond or do this, even though my mental model and my emotions are pushing me to do opposite. My value set is more important than my current emotional experience. Right. And the other piece to throw a wrench into all this is like, it's called the Johari window model. It's like, the open area closed, but the blind area. John, a lot of these things that came from my childhood, right, from my life experiences, John, when I learned about the blind area, I like stop and say, wait a minute, there are things that like other people see about me that I don't see about myself.
Yeah.
That freaked me out, right? But it became so intriguing to me because my question in the books, in the Social Leadership book, is, okay, everyone, what is your strategy for eradicating your blind area? Are you just going to be passive and just kind of hope it happens?
It's a great question.
It's blinder, like, right?
Yeah,
like Michael Scott from The Office, right? Okay, you can wait for it to happen, but I use the term proactive teachability instead of reactive. Reactive teachability is, let's say you call me up tomorrow and say, hey, Greg, great interview, but man, when you said this, that really hurt my feelings. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, John. I was teachable, but it was reactive because you had to come to me.
Gotcha.
Because I didn't see it in myself, right?
Yeah.
So, but every leader I work with on their individual development plan, I mandate 2 techniques and 2 skills they must incorporate. One is the listening skill, because when I would meet senior leadership teams, I'd ask, who are the worst leaders you've ever been under? And who are the best leaders? Well, it's easy to remember the worst because there's all these things, but invariably there was 2 things that always came to the surface. One is the worst leaders don't listen, right? Which has a play of not being teachable, but they don't listen because they're so egocentric. And again, we're in the human experience of being able to see each other. So I give the skill of empathy, and like I said, I asked, like asking people, are you a good listener? And everyone, yeah, I think so. I said, well, have you ever asked the people that you're listening to if they feel heard by you?
Oh, what a question. Yes.
Right?
That's the litmus test, right? That's the real test.
Are you a good parent?
Yeah.
Have you ever asked your kids? Are you a good spouse? Have you ever asked your wife? Are you a good leader? So, right. So that's being teachable and hearing them, right? The second one is practical teachability, which I have them like once a week or twice a week, whatever, go up to somebody that knows you well, knows your leadership, and say, John, how can I grow? Where am I blind? And of course, when you first ask that, John likes Greg. He doesn't want to hurt my feelings. So he said, well, I think you're great. I said, no, John, let's stop. Listen, John, I want the 10% that's in the back of your brain that you would never, ever share with me. I want that. Because
That'd
2 reasons.
courage.
One is, it takes courage. That's what, right? So one is because you might truly believe something about me because of, the way I responded. That's not true. And I want a chance to correct it. I don't want you to be that way. But secondly, you could see something about me that I desperately need to know. I want that. And so go to people and ask them the question. Now, when I go into organizations and I have that, your leadership influence goes through the roof because you go to your direct reports, you go to your peers. How can I grow? How can I grow? How can I grow? And it's like, oh my gosh, it's beautiful. But the funny thing is, it changes the culture of the organization because whether it's stated explicitly or not, now everybody in the organization is going, man, I wish Greg would do that. Right? Or as a direct report, my boss is putting themselves on the sacrificial altar and asking us how I want them to grow. Immediately, we all know we all should do this. Again, it's a human thing. Every single one of us as humans should practice that technique. So it immediately starts changing the culture of the organization.
Amazingly powerful. I can see how you go to the next level. I've got a coach, and she describes it that think of yourself as in the bottle, and a coach and someone like yourself as well, Greg, can see the label where you can't see the label.
Oh, that's great. That's a great analogy. Yeah.
Yeah. I thought that was
excellent.
Yeah. And it's similar to what you're describing now, but having the courage to ask for that feedback. I wonder if those direct reports thought it might be a career limiting move if they said that to their manager.
The funny thing is, I'm glad you said that. Well, first, when I'm going to go back to the bottle. So they not only can they see the label, they can see the ingredients.
Yeah, nice.
Okay. Side note, right? Mic drop moment, right? All right. So so it's like a career ending or changing. So when companies call me and say, I want to do a 360, so they have a problem child leader, right? That's I say, but if you introduce, like, have you guys done 360s before? No, we haven't. I said, but do you understand, like, if you do a 360, the first 360 you do in an organization is on a problem child, you've just set the tone for all future 360s, right? So you want to do a 360 because we all should grow on a high potential, on an average, and then that's one side note, because you want feedback to be something that's powerful, not something that is disciplinary, right? Secondly, is like, I have people then call me, then they are immediately concerned, like, are all my answers confidential?
Yeah.
Right. And then I talked to the bosses, the CEO and stuff. And I said, what does that tell you? If to the degree that people are concerned about the confidentiality determines that punishment culture.
Yeah, that's right. Straight away.
Right?
Yeah, I totally agree. Because otherwise,
Yeah.
why would you even ask?
Yeah. Why would you have, like, why are you concerned about it? Like, if people are going to get punished for being transparent,
Yeah.
that tells you about the culture of your organization. I think it's so funny too, is all these, I mean, companies do it and they should do it. It's ironic that I tell them, I said, all right, so I pull up their list. I said, here's your guys' list of values. And it's funny, people always put integrity as one of the values. I'm like, okay, well, hopefully. I mean, guys, well, we used to be big in embezzlement, but we're not doing that anymore. So it's just funny, some of the values. But I asked the senior leadership team, I said, well, if these are your values, do you mind if I go out on the floor and then say, what are the true values of the organization? Do you think the list would match? Right? So it's like the proposed culture versus the true culture.
Yeah.
So just like off on that teachability, it's like, if you really think you're going to get punished for being transparent, and some cultures, of course, are like that.
Yeah. Yep. Well, and I wanted to ask you as well, because we've talked a fair bit on the show about how human beings innately want to be safe. So to step out of your comfort zone, you've got to take something, because it's not a default position sometimes for a lot of us. Like, a lot of us want to be more, do more, and become more. But to do that, you've got to get out, and you've got to in some ways override that primal brain wiring of, I'm safe, so if I stay here, I'm okay. A lot of what we've spoken about so far is about stepping out of your comfort zone and having the courage to be self-aware. So I guess you need encouragement or some kind of structure or help to do that. What's your take on all of that?
So I completely agree. It's complex because, like, is it just like, of course, the organization should have ways in which to get openness. Because, I mean, I don't think it's a matter of people. It's not a matter of being safe just in the organization, because people know I'm not feeling safe, or this is a weakness of my team, my group, my division, the company. So what needs to change? Everybody can see it. The safety has to do with what happens if I expose, because it's always about, like, insecurity. It's always about exposure. So knowing that there has to be, as far as a feedback process, that's why I say that the leadership has to, like, start at the top of 360s. It's a culture. So if safety is the main obstacle to creativity, right? Because, I mean, it may not be. I call it the whirlwind. The whirlwind, I mean, they might be a very, very safe culture, but the whirlwind is actually the obstacle, because our people are so busy, they don't have a chance to be creative. Matter of fact, when I was coaching executives, I mean, I say that the number one thing, if they just do a number one thing an executive needs, is time to think.
Yep.
Right. So, like, that gets creative, right? So I mandate, as far as my individual development plan, I don't care if it's like Monday morning or Friday afternoon, depends on how you flow. I want you to, like, be disciplined, turn everything off, and go to a whiteboard and dump. So if you want safety, every employee tell them, like, give them an hour. I want you to go in this room. We're going to buy you lunch. I'm going to give you a whiteboard, and I want you to dump.
Mm,
And you are safe. I'll give you 2 hours to do it. Nobody will disturb you. I don't care who you are. And the genius that would come on or come up from that room from that time, I don't care if it's the janitor, right? Right? I don't care who it is. Give the employee a chance, maybe like once every couple weeks or a month. Reward your employees, give them 2 hours, buy them lunch, say, I just want you to dump and just anything about our company on how things can improve and systems, and give them 5 or 6 colors of dry erase marker and watch them go.
Yeah. Great ideas, Greg. Great ideas. So Rise and Thrivers, go to becomingmore.com. Really simple to get in contact with Greg and see his books and be able to buy them. I'm sure you've been inspired by listening to all the concepts and ideas. I know I have. So that's becomingmore.com. Of course, everything will be available in the show notes as usual. I want to touch on something that you mentioned, because you mentioned spirituality, and I could see how that would come through your pastoring. And I'm wondering how that spiritual concept gets weaved into your work, and whether that's in a corporate organizational sense, maybe that's not appropriate to bring that in there, and it's more of the one-on-one personal stuff that you do. But I'm really interested in that spiritual aspect of the work that you do and how you mentioned it earlier.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've already said the lion's share, but I just didn't use the terminology.
Right.
Like when we say living our values.
Yeah.
What are values? They're morals, right? And I tell people, like, well, number one, like 85% of humanity believes in God, like just a creator, right? So that's not right. I know there's atheists out there, so but it's everybody has God back here in their mind, right? Kind of thing. Most people do. So living our values, like when I use rational, healthy, wise, and right, what am I saying? There's objective truth. Like, because I tell in couples, I said, use that. Say, honey, what you just said is not healthy. Well, now she has to prove that it was healthy. So there's objective truth. When it came to mission statement, that I didn't describe is like, I go back to like the Bible, Genesis 1, 2, 3, and 4. Genesis 1 and 2, everything was created and it was beautiful. It was great. Genesis chapter 3, if you're not familiar, is like where Adam and Eve sinned and everything went to hell. But Genesis chapter 4 to now and moving on is God and man responding to what happened in Genesis 3. And in Genesis 4, it says these descendants started becoming shepherds and herdsmen. These descendants started making tools, and these descendants started making musical instruments. And that's what piqued my interest. The shepherds and herdsmen, like, that's commodities. That's like social structure. The tools is every job, every technological advancements trying to solve a human problem. The musical instruments where I get the piece of trying to enhance the human experience. Right. So whether or not I use the terms or not, I do know this, that within the heart of us all, we see the pain in the world. That's spiritual. Right. Now there's some people who don't care, but that's few people. All of us care. We are touched. We are hurt by the human experience and the hurt of it. And it makes us angry, and anger is from fear and hurt. The fear is we don't want this to continue. The hurt is empathy and sympathy. That's spirituality. Well, then when it comes to destiny, calling, and purpose, like I've got to do something. It's not just about me and my quality of life. I mean, I want to go on a cruise, right? But everywhere I go, it's the touch. Right. So, I mean, these like Instagram reels that just make me cry. There's this one guy, I forgot his name, but he'll walk up and hand a guy or a girl like flowers and then give him a note. And the note will say something like, you are more than enough. And the person, like, he just walks away and the camera's showing him. And this one is like, that I see the pain that you never talk about. That note that he gives them after he hands them flowers. I mean, people just like start crying. That's the human experience, man. That's spirituality.
Yeah. Those things are universal that you're talking about. Where if you get that note yourself, you could relate to that. Everyone could relate to that, I guess. And that empathy, I've heard that was something that our brains have developed, and that's what makes us human and separates us from all other beings, that empathy. I guess animals have it as well, but not all of them, and only to a certain extent. We have it in spades. We don't always show it,
Yeah,
but we've got it.
it's certainly tied to, I mean, for every creature, but I think it's based more on survival,
Yeah.
right? Because I've also seen the animal creatures like praying mantis, like they'll have sex and then the girl would bite the guy's head off, right?
Yeah, there's no
Right?
empathy there.
Right. Anyway, like true empathy is not just, it's not brain based, it's free will choice and heart based.
Right.
Because technically it's yeah, empathy, like it's interchangeable, but I frame empathy, because we use it in our master's degree, as I see you and I understand your hurt. Sympathy is feeling it, right? So pathos, I mean, going to some Greek here, the Greek word pathos is the word for suffering. Like old Latin, like compassion, passion meant suffering. So compassion means to suffer with. So empathos is I suffer with you, but I get you. I mean, I'm not going to dishonor your pain by saying, oh, I feel you, when I have not been through. I think it's dishonoring. Sympathy is truly, I feel you because I've been where you've been. But as counselors, I mean, I can't feel that. I'll get burned out after a week or two of counseling, but I can have empathy. John can walk away from me feeling seen by me. That's empathy. That man, just like I see your pain, and I get you. And you know what? I do also know this, that you are enough. That you are enough.
Thanks for explaining that so well, Greg, for myself and the listeners. That's really, really powerful. And listeners, Greg has just given us so much gold in this interview. I really encourage you to continue learning from his wisdom and his passion and his style, and the mission that he's on by going to becomingmore.com and having a look at his books and go and grab them. Dr. Greg, I ask every guest on the show these last two questions. This show is called Rise and Thrive Conversations for Greatness, and I'd like to know, you've touched on it, but what is greatness for you?
Greatness for me is getting to the end of my life, and having relationships there, because nobody gets to the end of life when we're sucking on oxygen and ever says the whole, Billy Graham said this, that, I wish I would have spent more time at the office.
Yeah, that's right.
So I recognize I get to that moment of, and then secondly is legacy, relationships and legacy. My first book, it's about legacy. I put, my brain on paper kind of thing. So I just had my first grandson this year. He is 9 months old, right? But his name is Stewart, and it's for him, and it's for his kids, that he can read what was in his grandpa's thoughts. Right? It's legacy. That's what makes me rise and thrive, right? That's what it is.
Excellent. Excellent, Dr. Greg Stewart. And the last question I usually ask is, we've got a Spotify playlist which is created by the guests, because it's called Merko Motivation, and it's only added to by the guests. So I ask, in that moment where you would like some inspiration or motivation, what's a go-to song that you might put on?
I actually put it in my, there's a few songs that I put in my leadership book. There's an old song that I love, is by Shinedown back in 2003. And he talks about, long live that day when I decided to fly from the inside.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's a song by Evanescence where it's go and break your wings. I mean, learn how to fly and just go all out. And there's another song just talking about that unrelenting passion that nothing can stop you. And when I listen to those songs, especially that one by Shinedown, long live that day when I decided to fly from the inside.
That's fantastic. That they're going on the playlist. We've got a wide variety of songs on there. We've got Gregorian chanting, we've got pop songs, we've got rap songs, we've got everything. And those two are going on there, Dr. Greg. Thanks for adding to that. So becomingmore.com is the place to go to connect with Dr. Greg Stewart. He's given us so much gold and so much wisdom. I just can't thank you enough for being on the show. It's been awesome.
The honor is mine to be able to share my thoughts, John. So the gift is mine. So thank you.
Thanks for joining us on Rise and Thrive, Conversations for Greatness with John Merkus. Remember, you are loved, you are worthy, and you do matter. Embrace the journey of personal growth and motivation. Let's go out there and do something great. Follow or subscribe for more insights and inspiration every Tuesday. Until next time, stay awesome.